car crash, the death of a parent, an unexpected diagnosis. Life can come at you fast and with no explanation. In these moments, we find ourselves overwhelmed by not only the event itself, but the emotional aftermath. Grief, sadness, confusion, and often self-pity. Self-pity tends to get a bad reputation. It's seen as a weakness, is unattractive, is an evil demon that shows up every now and then and is meant to be overcome. As depicted in the viral piece titled Self-Pity, shared by online user Platy42, self-pity is often seen as a powerful vortex, one that should be avoided, where the consequence could be ending up in a dark and harrowing place, a place you might never get out of. But is this a fair perception? Could self-pity actually serve a purpose? Emotions, after all, evolved for us. They are not omens, but survival tools, internal signals designed to help us navigate an unpredictable and cruel world. Fear keeps us from danger, anger prepares us to defend, sadness slows us down so we can process injustice. But what about self-pity? Is it an unintended consequence of evolution yet to be strained out, or is it a tool with a purpose, like our other emotions? This essay will explore the essential question: is self-pity ever beneficial? While excessive self-pity can lead to emotional stagnation, when acknowledged and properly directed, it can serve as a vital tool for emotional processing, internal order, and resilience in the face of injustice. To understand self-pity, it's best to start with the perceptions most people are familiar with. Self-pity is bad. In a 2008 interview, famous actor and writer Stephen Fry takes an uncompromising stance against self-pity. In his interview, he says the following:
certainly the most destructive vice, if you like, that a person can have, more than pride, which is supposedly the number one of the cardinal sins, is self-pity. I think self-pity is the worst possible emotion anyone can have, and the most destructive.
He continues by arguing that unlike anger, which can be redirected or solved, self-pity slowly poisons everything around it. The only thing he says that self-pity doesn't poison is itself, which is why it traps people in a sense of injustice that destroys everything around them. Fox Beyer, a motivational speaker born with cerebral palsy, offers a similar take. In his TEDx talk, Sharks and Self-Pity, Beyer describes self-pity as an obstacle to progress. He compares it to a shark losing a tooth, something a shark does thousands of times in its lifetime. But as he puts it, the shark keeps on swimming, and goes another tooth, and moves on. His message is unmistakable. Feeling sorry for yourself will get you nowhere. Beyer even recites a poem that he wrote to the audience about self-pity.
Even if tough times last, tough people, they last longer. And as you go down that mogul-ridden path, let your faith grow stronger. If you fall off the horse, get up and get back on the saddle. Victory Highway is not smooth sailing, for that road is a constant uphill battle. Even if positive thoughts don't work, negative thoughts, they'll kill you. So keep your mind, your body, and your soul on high alert.
As Beyer puts it, negative thoughts will kill you, and you must be on high alert, otherwise you will never reach the goals that you set for yourself. Beyer and Fry are both just expressing personal opinions, but their views reflect a deep cultural intuition, one that defines emotional strength as endurance and not self-indulgence, one where self-pity isn't given a chance to be beneficial, it's only seen as a failure. But if you want to get away from this narrative, a great place to look is research, which doesn't paint such a definitive picture. Professor of psychology Joachim Stober conducted a study that found self-pity correlated with certain traits like neuroticism, loneliness, and internalized anger. While that seems to paint an unattractive picture of self-pity, it raises a question worth asking: whether these effects are caused by self-pity, or whether the people who are already struggling are just more likely to experience it. After all, would it be fair to blame symptoms for the disease? Psychotherapist Tina Gilbertson challenges the blame game altogether. She argues that self-pity is just another name for feeling bad for yourself, and that's something we should allow ourselves to do. The way Gilbertson sees it, self-pity gets a negative rep because some people betray self-pity and abandon themselves, actually just in need of pity from others, where those who actually understand self-pity are able to take the first step forward to our actual self-care without making such a fuss. She writes, "It's so necessary because nobody knows how bad things can get for us sometimes like we do." She sees self-pity not as complaining or manipulation, but as a genuine step in the right direction. But if this is the case, how can we separate this helpful sort of self-pity from the harmful? A common answer is the distinction between self-pity and self-compassion. In an article written by psychologists Donna Henderson and Margaret Paul, self-pity is described as a victim mindset. It's a constant thinking of why me, which leads people to look for sympathy and external validation. Self-compassion, on the other hand, is more personal. It means treating yourself with kindness and and acknowledging your pain without being consumed by it. The right to self-compassion leads to resilience, while self-pity leads to stagnation. But even this distinction isn't always clear. Gilbertson, for example, blurs the lines, arguing that self-compassion and self-pity are just the same emotion, expressed differently. Self-pity is more raw and honest, while self-compassion is more polished. One thing they all agree about is that self-compassion is a positive emotion, one that's meant for recognizing suffering and trying to soothe it. But if self-pity and self-compassion are just two sides of the same coin, maybe the problem is not the emotion itself, but how we respond to it. Philosopher Dina Mendoza at the University of South Carolina takes this idea even further. In her academic paper, Self-Pity is Resilience Against Injustice, she argues that self-pity isn't just valid, it's vital. She argues that self-pity, rather than signaling weakness, can actually cultivate resistance and endure injustices in the world. Instead of emotionally running away from hardship, self-pity allows people to recognize injustices in the world without moving on and ignoring it. Mendoza even compares it to calibration, like emotional sleep. It may be uncomfortable, even isolating, but it's a process that allows the individual to reassess their situation and begin to build up resistance against their troubles and ill fortunes. Self-pity is a frequent response to things like loss, illness, and personal failure, which is why embracing it can help us reframe suffering into something meaningful. This idea that self-pity provides space for internal restructuring aligns closely with what psychiatrist Alec Kanaja suggests in his video essay, Why Self-Pity Can Feel So Good. The Harvard-trained psychiatrist says that
our brain is not designed to feel good. It's designed to understand things and put things in order, okay? So what I mean by that is that the brain seeks to bring order from chaos. It's all about generating patterns so that we can understand and make sense of the world.
Kanaja goes on to say that this order that the mind craves can temporarily be fulfilled by self-pity. It can help create a mental narrative that makes sense of all the chaos we experience. In some cases, he argues that self-pity can act as a substitute for external compassion when that isn't available. It may not always look healthy, but is often what the brain needs. Altogether, Mendoza and Kanaja help create a radically different view of self-pity, not as a spiral we must always escape, but as a pause, an emotional recalibration that we need, to help recognize suffering, restore order, and eventually find a way forward. Even in fiction, our relationship with self-pity is complex. In Hamlet, the Prince of Denmark spends most of the play in grief, anger, and self-pity. And yet, as Scottish journalist Alan Massey points out, that self-pity is part of what makes Hamlet compelling. His suffering draws us in, gives him charm, depth, and even power. So why do we reject self-pity in real life but romanticize it in literature? Perhaps it's because we're uncomfortable seeing others express pain openly. Or maybe it's because we have been conditioned to fear it. But what does this all mean? Is self-pity ever beneficial? The answer is it is, but with limits. Like all emotions, self-pity has a purpose. It can help us recognize our suffering, make sense of injustice, and even rebuild our identity after a crisis. But when left unchecked, it can also become a trap. Our goal shouldn't be to eliminate self-pity, but to learn from it, to use it as a signal. In a world that often tells us to just keep swimming, maybe we need to stop and float sometimes. Not to drown, but to take a breath. Self-pity can help us do that, and we shouldn't be scared to let it.